Okay, so let's look at adding and subtracting rational expressions. So first thing we need is always a common denominator. So we're going to look for, just right now, the lowest common denominator. So I'm going to say the lowest common denominator. So if I look between 5 and 3, I would use 15. And I have x and x squared, so I'm going to use x squared, because they can both go into it. If I look at the next one, I have a lowest common denominator. I have 6 and 2, so I'm going to pick 6. You could pick 12, that would work. It's not really the lowest, but you could pick it. I have an x squared, so I need to include it. And I have y, and I have y cubed, so I'm going to pick y cubed. When I have two different binomials, the lowest common denominator is simply the product of them. So I have x minus 5 and x plus 3. Same idea if I have a binomial and a monomial. The lowest common denominator simply is the product of them. So I would say it would be 7x and x plus 7. If I look here for the lowest common denominator, I have x plus 1 and x minus 4 and x plus 2 and x minus 4. So they both have an x minus 4 in common. And then I would say there's an x plus 1 and an x plus 2. If I look at the lowest common denominator for this one, so they don't have everything in common. So the lowest common denominator would actually be the product of all the ones that I need. So these two have this one in common, so that one would be missing that. I need a 3x minus 4. I've already included this one. I need an x minus 4. It's already been included. And an x plus 5. If I look at this one, lowest common denominator. So I have an x that needs to be included, and I have an x minus 6 and it's squared. So this one has 1, but this one is squared, so it has 2. So I need to include the 2. If I look at this one, I need to include the 4x because it's part of this one, so this one would have to get those included. I have a 5x minus 1 squared. So this has 1, but this doesn't. So because it's squared, I need to include both of them. I don't need to include this again. And this is an x plus 2 and an x plus 2 squared. So I have to include the x plus 2 squared.